here. Today we're going to look at how to easily draw 4 kinds of trees. All you'll need today is a pencil, paper, and eraser. Now let's get started. We're going to start with a very common North American tree like a maple or oak. This is a pretty generic shape, so you could kind of use it for a lot of trees. So you actually want, in this case, a shaky hand. So I will go and do something like that and have these little fractal branches coming out. It's like the one time you actually want shaky hands. Fractals are patterns found in nature that repeat on a smaller and smaller scale. So a great example of this is the fern. So that following that same concept, you want to do that with your tree branches. So if it was winter and you just wanted the tree bare like this, I would start going in and adding a little bit more of a outline, some shading. But if you wanted leaves on your tree, generally maple and oak leaves create these cloud-like shapes from a distance. So I would just go ahead and make some cloud-like shapes right over the leaves you just drew and leave some exposed so they're poking through. And you could be kind of messy with this. We're gonna go in later and erase it. So take your eraser and erase out those shapes. And then we're gonna clean up the lines. So here's a branch here. Don't make the clusters of leaves too round. Give it some texture on the end, a little bumpiness. Give these little branches a little bit of depth by leaving a little space between the two lines. So it looks like the branch has a little bit of thickness. And I think a tree looks really a lot more realistic when you have like pockets of space where the branches are showing through. Now you can also go in and shade it if you like. You could do a stylistic shading like this. And then sometimes I even like to put a few wrinkles in the wood. This wood is pretty textured and uneven. Let's see that nice bark effect going on. There you go. A simple tree. When I think of a pine tree, I think of a kind of pizza-like shape. So draw a pizza slice with a line down the middle, very lightly. And then use your shaky hand and draw a trunk. And then I would hold my pencil on an angle like this and very loosely start creating these wing-like shapes. and have some coming forward like that. And they don't have to be perfect, they don't have to follow the, the pizza shape exactly. Some parts could be sticking out. But if you create these wing-like shapes, pile them on top of each other, they begin to create a pine tree. And then, still holding your pencil on an angle, like sideways like that, you can add some dark, broad strokes underneath the wings. This will give it shadow, and it'll also help you create the shape of the tree. If you create some areas where it's a little bit darker than others and not have such a uniform shading, it gives it a more realistic effect. I'll go in with the fine eraser and erase that guideline we created in the beginning. Touch up some of the lines, and then there you have it, a easy Christmas tree. Just a reminder, you can get early access to tutorials and free wallpaper and things like that from my Patreon at patreon.com/biomimiart. Next is the willow tree. The willow tree is a little bit more challenging, but I would start in the same way that we did with the maple oak tree. Begin by making a shaky trunk, and because it's a willow tree, they tend to lean one way, so I would make it more asymmetrical, and then also have the branches a little more droopy than the tree we did up here. Use the same fractal concept. Once you have a few branches laid out, I would begin drawing these almost like wigs onto the tree. If you can imagine like the back of someone's head, here's like another wig. It's like a tree of wigs. Is that kind of creepy? Yeah. Maybe that's kind of a scary way to think of it, but I feel like that's an easy way to imagine it. And overall, if you have some overlapping shapes, that also creates a better sense of realism. Like see like how I have leaves overlap each other, branches and clusters of leaves overlap each other. That really helps create a sense of realism. And then, like we did before, we're going to erase out the shapes. I think with a willow tree, you can kind of see more of the leaf structure. So the reason why I drew these close-ups of the leaf is so that you could see how the leaves are structured when close up. So you could kind of imagine that on a zoomed out scale. And if you wanted to draw that, it would kind of be these little alternating dashes. I think with a willow tree you can get away with showing more of the individual leaves, just a few dashes like that to represent the leaves. And not too many, like more just like maybe one strand on the side and then some coming down at the tip, but still keeping this wig shape for the most part. And I would hold my pencil sideways again for this leaf portion. Maybe we'll want a few leaves showing in the middle. And alternate the leaves. See how the nodes are alternating? You want to do that also with your dashes. And showing a little bit of a wind effect. That's great. In willow trees, it really adds a sense of movement to your piece. Once you're done with that, you can add in these shading lines if you like, and darken the branches we had drawn earlier. And then you're all done. For a palm tree, I would also start with a shaky trunk, and this palm trees tend to have a longer, more narrow trunk, so we're going to do that. And some of them have these smooth green stalks over here right before the leaves start. Some of them have really bumpy, like leftover nodes from where they cut off the palm leaf here, and it's like really textured. Today we're gonna go a little simpler and do the one with the green exposed stalk. And then from here, we want to think of it as a flower almost. So the leaves will radiate outward like that, kind of like a flower. And then if you imagine, it's kind of like a feather, and it has these leaves just like that coming out. So the palm trunk has a lot of these horizontal wrinkles. You can use that to your advantage and almost use it as a shading, a shadow as well. So maybe this side is darker and has more lines. And I would again overlap some leaves to give it a more realistic effect. Because remember, this is a 3D object, so some leaves are going to be in front of other leaves. Give it a little shading. Maybe darken the center lines a little bit. You can add some coconuts. I feel like but yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you learned a lot. You can support me on Patreon if you want to see more tutorials like this, or head over to my Instagram for some behind the scenes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Have fun and make art.